Hello, everyone, and welcome to Stress Free IEP, the show where we help families build their village to raise their neurodivergent children with confidence and support. I'm your host, Frances Schefter, special education attorney, advocate, and fellow parent walking this journey with you. Each week, we shine a light on the professionals, resources, and real world strategies that can empower you to navigate the IEP process and beyond. Whether you're tuning in live on Facebook or YouTube or listening later on your favorite podcast app, we're so glad you're here. And as you're listening, we'd love to hear from you. Drop your questions in the comments or ask them live. We're paying attention and we promise to respond. Now let's dive in and meet today's amazing guest. Cindy Palmer is the founder of Threshold Coaches, which specializes in providing executive function coaching for college students with ADHD. Cindy has spent over 25 years supporting teens and young adults with ADHD through academic and life transitions. A former high school teacher and adolescent therapist, Cindy specializes in executive function coaching, especially during the leap from high school to college. She's also a parent of two daughters immersed in the college journey, helping them navigate the support system to meet their own unique needs. Cindy, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it's good to be here.
So excited to have you. This is such a hot topic, especially this time of year
Yeah,
when
for
it's like,
sure.
oh
Especially this
no,
time of year.
happening, right?
Uh-huh.
Um,
Yep.
and I know I've talked about before that the transition from high school to college is not only difficult for the kids, but the parents also, because all of a sudden this college is like, nope, mom and dad, we're not talking to you. Your kid's 18,
Yep.
right?
It's a big, big transition. Yeah. It's one of my favorite things I think it's one of the more unexplored aspects of this is the parent, not just that they can't talk to the school anymore, but that they have their own developmental journey to go on as a parent into the college setting. So, yeah, for
Right.
sure.
It's big leaps. And transitions are always so hard. Like I always talk about like pre-K to kindergarten and fifth to middle school and middle to
Mhm.
high school. But people don't often talk about to college, They're
Right.
just like, oh yeah, they're off to college and going and don't think about for neurodivergent kids that the executive functioning skills, like they don't have that support anymore.
Right, right. And it depends on how much the parent functioned as their prefrontal cortex, if you will, the executive functioning part of the brain. So if the parent was doing a lot of support in high school, or if their, IEP and 504 teams at the schools were really good, and then they make that leap to a spot where likely it's nowhere near as good, that can be a pretty incredible chasm between those two experiences. So,
Right.
yeah, yeah,
And
for sure.
I've seen kids that were like at private schools that, private schools do a lot more of the executive functioning for the kids just because of the nature of how they're set up. And
Mhm.
then they get to college and they fall apart because they don't, what's studying, what's taking
Yeah.
notes. Like,
Or how do you write a 10-page paper? Yeah.
right. Or
Mhm.
how do I like I've got a test in this one and a paper in that one and a reading, like manage my schedule, right?
Right. And no
And it's
one's checking on me or announcing that the test happened. They just give you the syllabus and that's it. So, yeah.
exactly, exactly. And then all of a sudden, like, oh wait, I have an exam now, and I didn't prepare.
Hmm.
It's such a
Yeah, that
challenge.
sounds familiar for sure.
Yeah. And so I know we were talking about having like the top 10 tips. Like,
Mhm.
so I know coaching is so important, but like, what are those tips for families that are navigating the system? Let's
Yeah,
talk through
yeah.
those a little.
I would love to share those. So, um, like we just alluded to, this is a big leap from one place to another, but I think there's some things that students and their parents alongside them can be doing now in the high school setting. So, we started noticing some trends when we would begin to communicate with parents in that senior year into the summer of their senior year before they arrived, and how much better the onboarding into coaching and the college setting went, if we could start getting ready before the moment their foot lands on campus. So these are some of those things. And really, this is not just for seniors. If I could grab a hold of freshmen and their parents and have them begin to work on some of this stuff ahead of time, it would be really fantastic. Then they wouldn't need us, which would be
Right.
great,
Or
right?
even
To
better,
enter
get the
in and be
schools.
independent. Yeah,
I was
yeah.
gonna say,
So
get the schools to put it in the transition plan like they're supposed to in the IEPs. That doesn't
yes,
happen really.
yes, yes, exactly. Okay, well, I'll jump in and just to say these are in no order. So, like, number one is not the most important. And then the other thing I would just preface is some of these may super duper apply, and then some you're like, yeah, that's not so much a thing because as we know, neurodivergence in and of itself has a ton of diversity within each person's story and context and school support and family system. And so take and leave it, but I bet you there's at least half of these that are directly applicable and super helpful right now. Okay, so number one is self advocacy. Because, like you mentioned, the college setting is not going to be talking to the parents at all unless there's special paperwork signed to make sure that happens, right? Otherwise, they are legally bound to be quiet because
Yep.
there is an 18-year-old adult and they have all kinds of assumptions around what kind of adulting they're capable of doing when they land on the college campus.
And I wanna
So,
also say, it doesn't matter that you're paying the bill, they're still an adult.
nope,
Because
it
that's the
doesn't matter.
hardest thing for the parents, like, "But
Yeah,
I'm paying for it." Doesn't
exactly. It
matter.
does not matter. Yeah, by law, they are bound to be quiet.
Mhm.
Okay, so I think when I say self-advocacy too, I don't just mean when and how to ask for help. I also mean knowing what you're good at, right? So when we onboard our clients, the very first thing I ask them is not what's the struggle, it's what are you good at? Like, what are the things that are going to be your foundation you can stand on when the other stuff gets crumbly and a little more difficult, right? And then what do you need help with, obviously? And then thirdly, what can they describe the impact of their neurodivergence on their life as a student? So a lot of the students we work with have ADHD. And so can they have words around, well, my ADHD, if I ask them, how does this daily impact you? They should at least be able to rattle off 2 to 3 things where they find that ADHD have an impact on their academic stance, on their setting in academics. So that's the first one is what are you good at? What do you need help with? And then what can you articulate to a disability office what the impact is on your academics so you can get accommodations as they see fit that are actually going to match what you need. Yeah. Okay. So practicing having those conversations before you're doing it in your interview with the disability office, because that's not the first time to be having that conversation.
Exactly.
Yeah. So practice, practice. Number two, and this one, hopefully the IP meetings are set up this way. By the time they're juniors and seniors, my hope would be that they're leading that meeting,
Yep,
right? And at least if not leading it, that they speak more than their parent does,
yep,
right? And so that they're actively participating in those meetings, that they're actively participating in their doctor and therapy appointments. So if you go with your 17, 18-year-old to the doctor, practice being quiet and letting them say what's wrong and them say what they think they need, even if they do a really not great job of it, right? They need to
right.
practice that. And then, of course, with teachers, emailing, talking to them, asking for help.
Yep,
And then the last one I would say is practice. And this one's the most intimidating, right? But when you start doing campus visits, go to the disability center and just work through and scaffold this experience for them, but have them have one question, at least one, that they could ask the front desk person at the disability office. Something that matters to them that they're wondering if they have this or if they do that, or what does this particular accommodation look like in this setting? So I think getting those conversations started in the college setting before they're actually going there, while very intimidating, is a really important step to take too.
it is. And I would say with the talking about the IEP meetings, they get asked all the time, like, well, when do you let your child, when does your child come? And legally, it's at 14. It's slightly different for some states, but federal is 14, that
Mhm,
they have to invite the child. But a lot of
mm,
times the children don't come. My daughter started coming in fourth grade. She does not stay for the whole meeting. She just
mhm,
comes in fourth grade and says, this is what's working. This is what's not working. This is what I think needs. We basically go over the supplementary aids and services and the accommodations, and we talk about those with
mhm,
her because
mhm.
she should be able to articulate and she knows what's working for her. And it's
Yes, she
instead of
does.
us guessing, like thinking, well, we think that
Mhm,
works because that hasn't happened when we. So
mhm.
I always say the earlier the better. If your child's ready to start, because that gets them at the young age ready to advocate for themselves and over that fear of being in the room with how many adults.
Right.
And it's
And I
so
loved
important
the
to start.
scaffold you, yeah, and I
Yeah,
love the scaffold you added to that, like what's working, what's not, and what do you need? Like just being able to answer those three questions in that meeting should be absolutely a skill set from, it's part of the thing you got to pack in your suitcase and take with you through life is that skill
right.
as a neurodivergent human. So might as well start. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Okay. I love that she's doing that in fourth grade.
Yes.
Hooray. Hooray.
Well, she's 6 now. She's been doing it since 4th.
Yes, I love
Yeah,
that. Okay, number three is to try out accommodations in high school to see what works best for you. And, I just want to caveat this with it can be socially hard to do these kinds of
yeah,
things in high school and especially in middle school. It's even worse. But, for them to get extended time on tests or go to a quiet testing environment, some students, when they have to, if they can't do that subtly, they won't do it at all. And I understand that because people are like, wait, what? We have a test today. You just left the room. Where'd you go? Right. And for them to have to explain themselves to their peers, that's really tough. So I think trying to get it set up to where the getting accommodations is not something that's a loud trumpet call to their peers that is happening. Right. So can the teacher be subtle about it? Can they just start, not even come into the classroom, although that can be noticed too, and go to the counselor's office and take the test or whatever they need. Right. But I think so if we can eliminate some of that social pressure and actually try out some of the accommodations in high school to see what works. Again, like you said, what works, what doesn't, what do you need? Like, can we practice that with the accommodations available to them in high school so that they are more comfortable and know what they need when they get to college, right? Or at least begin to guess at what they might need in
right.
that new setting.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
So I think, and having conversations, well, I would love for you to try on one or two accommodations and give the students some choice in that. What ones feel like some that might be helpful that you're willing to try out here and now
Right.
so that we know when you get to college if that's something you want to take with you.
And that's something, yeah, just to bring it to IEPs, that's something like I go through in supplementary aids and services. It's, a lot of the school systems use like to name the aid, but then clarify
Mhm,
location and manner. And that area should be clarifying like positive reinforcement. Well, what works? What doesn't work? And like those are the
mhm,
things also, preferential seating. Those are things that would move into college also. So let's
mhm,
clarify that. What does that exactly mean? What does this child need? And clarify it on the IEP. So when the
mhm.
transition to college, we have that. And again,
Right.
it's a living document. And so you can put it this way, and then you know what? That's not working this year. So let's tweak it and change it.
Mhm. Yeah, because the environment changes and their brain changes and they're like
Yeah.
everything's constantly moving. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. All right. Number four, and this is one that we see, this one can cause some pretty massive consequences in college if they don't have it set up correctly ahead of time, and that's their meds.
Mm,
So if your college student to be has meds for anxiety, depression, but especially for ADHD because it's a controlled substance. And state lines are an issue with doctors and care. So for me, both of my kids are going, one is a senior headed out and the other's already out. And so we had to figure out how to get new doctors in new states because controlled substances, the docs do not, you have to have it in the state you go to.
Right.
right? Or they're very reluctant. Like some will follow, and then when you come home, they'll update your meds, but it's better if you can to have it in the place that you go. And so A is your junior senior still going to a pediatrician? Likely they are. And so some pediatricians, the moment they turn 18, are like, you're out. My
Yep.
practice is full, get out. And sometimes they don't have a nice road paved to the next doctor. So
Right.
good at age 17 to start asking, hey, what's your process for an 18-year-old? Because maybe you're going to need to get on wait lists locally. What does that transition look like? And asking really specific questions about when they go to college, what do we do with these 2 prescriptions? Will
Right.
you be able to refill them? If not, what should we do? Right. So I think,
Because you don't want to be a week left of meds trying to figure this out because that
nope.
could be just
Yep.
awful.
And depending on the setting that you're moving into, lots of colleges are stretched real thin in their health services. So getting meds through the through the health center or whatever can be really complicated, especially if you need to change from one med to another.
Mm,
That can be really difficult, especially with ADHD meds, because they're hot items on college campuses
mhm.
in an improper use form. So they're
Yeah.
very tight on their control of those substances.
Mhm.
So there's that aspect of meds. And then there's the aspect that is having your students start managing the process. Meaning, do you put the pill by their orange juice every morning? If you do, you aren't going to be there by their orange juice when they go to college. Right.
Right.
And so, how can they begin to be the ones to remember to take their meds? And are you willing? Is it, it's with it depending on the med, it can be really devastating if they miss with some anxiety and depression type meds where it's like your body will freak out if you don't take it for the
Yeah.
day. ADHD meds in general are not that way, but can they figure out a system to remember to take their own meds? Because that will fall apart very quickly in college
Oh,
unless you
yeah.
let them practice. The other
And the
bigger picture,
spiral of that
yes.
would be just
So, yeah. The
yeah.
other big thing is with ADHD meds anyway, their doctors have to send the prescription month by month. And there's little loopholes they can do for 3 months, but they have to go see a doctor at 3 month mark to get a renewal. And so that, and if you can imagine, ADHD, overwhelmed in college, lots of social opportunities, not used to tracking anything. And I have to see that my bottle is going down and down and down and down. And it's the 3rd month, but I don't know that because I'm not tracking time super well. And then it is the week before final exams and I run out of meds,
Oy.
right?
Right.
So it can
Goes the
become a
semester.
disaster really quickly. So helping them determine when if you can practice for that last 6 months of their senior year of them renewing their prescriptions and knowing when and just talking through the process of how to begin to
Yeah.
think about that or how to put a reminder in your phone or how to all those dancing moving parts. The only other piece is can they call well, 2 pieces, can they call the doctor?
Right.
Um, I mean, I literally had a student say to me, "What? So when I call the doctor, am I get? Do I talk to the doctor?" And I was like, "Oh no, 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 no! If you're going to talk to some front desk person who it's not the doctor." I mean, she had no idea what it meant to call the
Yeah.
doctor because I kept saying, "Why haven't you called the doctor yet?" And it was because she didn't really know what it meant experientially to
Right.
call the doctor. And the only other one that is a real big problem is backup plans for shortages on meds, especially for
Yeah.
ADHD. So, do they know that they could call a different pharmacy? And if they don't, then they need to. So,
Right.
that's another complication, especially recently, right? Where they need to be
Yeah,
able to
because
deal with that.
they were running out of meds and couldn't get prescriptions
They
filled.
still are. It's
Are
not a
they?
past
I
tense thing, it's present. Mhm.
wow.
Yeah, yes, for sure. So that's it. All that meds is very, very important to get some, you practice doing it together, you talk through what you're doing as the parent, and then you hand it off and let them do it themselves, right? And that's a whole
Right.
process that takes time. Yeah. So, okay. Moving on, number five would be to consider counseling needs. So, life transitions can be huge risk for mental health, right? And this might be the biggest transition they've ever dealt with. So, like you were talking about, the transition from kindergarten to first grade, big one from elementary to middle, middle to high. And I would say the high school to college transition out of all of those is leaps and bounds bigger.
Oh yeah.
And so, there's a whole diagnostic code for counselors that is this is a life transition.
Hmm.
That's what's going on for this person. That's the code
Yep.
I'm putting in, right? And so this would be that. And for me, with both of my, well, one's gone and one's on her way out. And as soon as we figure out where she's going, her, it will be mine initially, but there'll be a handoff. First step is to go get on wait lists with 5 different counselors that are within a mile of
Mhm.
campus. And
Yeah.
people don't think to do that, but it doesn't matter if they don't need it. There's no harm in getting on a mental health wait list, right?
Right.
Because if you come to the top and they're like, hi, you're at the top of our wait list. Do you want to come in? They can say, no, I'm actually doing quite well. But if they wait to get in until the
Mhm.
need is present, their sweet executive function skills are not functioning because we're
Right.
stressed and anxious and depressed and all the things. And making an appointment with a stranger and
Mm.
yeah, it's just not a great idea. It's not going to happen.
I mean, most
Um,
neurotypical kids and kids that are in a good space have a problem doing that. So add all the
mhm.
other stuff and yeah,
Right.
it's not gonna
Yeah, you've
happen.
got to, it's not going to happen. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they won't talk to you, parents, because
Yep.
you have an 18-year-old. They might, but like not a lot. Some
Right.
just straight up won't because they need the counselor needs to know that it is the client invested in the process, not the
Right.
parent.
Right.
Right. So I would have lots of conversations with the College Counseling Center when you're touring campuses. Just what are the number of sessions that you are paid for with our tuition? Are they licensed counselors? Because lots of them are practicing counselors. They're like
Mhm.
in their program getting their
Interest.
credentials.
Yep.
So they're babies, right?
Yeah.
And then do you see the same counselor every time, or are you shuffled around from counselor to counselor and you don't form this nice trust
Yeah.
filled relationship that's essential for good therapy?
Right.
Right. So
And
most of them will have a limit, and most of them, depending on the level of crisis, they'll take you for a crisis. But once the crisis passes, sorry, we have 10 more students with crises. So we don't have the space and time. And that's becoming more and more typical with lack of funding and resources in the college setting. So finding them outside of campus is a good safeguard to have in place.
right.
Yeah.
And what a lot of people don't realize is that no, you can't keep the counselor that you have because it's a different state. Unless
Yes.
they're
Good
what is
point.
it,
I
the
forgot to
SIPAC,
mention that.
yeah, there are some
Yep.
SIPAC, and that's important to know now also of, like, if you think your child might be going to a counselor out of state, like, going to
Mhm.
college out of state, talk to the current counselor. Well, will you be able to do it? What do you recommend? And
Mhm.
maybe
Yes.
you wanna
Yep.
change counselors before going to college because maybe there's somebody else that can do it, so you can form that relationship now and then they do the transition. But it's all questions, like,
Yeah.
think about in advance until "Oh, no, we need it. Now what?"
Right. Yeah. That's a really big deal because across state lines is counselors are even more strict than medical care across state
Yeah,
lines in most instances because yeah, they are. So they won't practice outside their state.
yeah,
Yeah, good point. Thank you for adding that. Yeah. All right. Number six. This is a good one. This is for parents and students. So parents, get ready. You have just as smart part of this one as your student does. Students need to start practicing remembering. And I mean remembering anything. And
yeah,
parents need to stop. Here's the deal. This is more important. Parents, you need to start practicing not reminding them. And it's super duper 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 hard because you know they're going to forget, and there's going to be some consequences and some anger and some bad things are going to come when they forget. But to have them figure out systems to remember, more than likely they will have to fail remembering and realize they need a system to do it, and that it
Yep.
is not you. You are not the
Yep.
system. You're A, not going to know what to remember when they get to college, and B, you're far away probably. So, and C, it should be on them to remember things. Yeah.
Right.
So I think helping them play around with calendars and planners and to-do lists and helping them find their faves. Um, so this just happened to me yesterday. Yesterday, we were making an appointment with. We had just done a meet and greet kind of thing with a provider, and she was like, "Okay, so we're going to meet at this day, this time." And my daughter looks at me, and I was like, literally, is what I did. Nope, I'm
Hmm.
not. And so then she was like, oh yeah, it's me. So she gets her phone and she puts it in, right? But there's that, nope, and I did put it in my calendar because I can't
Of
help myself.
course. Right.
Because would I probably still say something like, but it'd be like, hey, I think there's something happening tomorrow. That's all
Right.
I'd say. But she's got to go find out what it is,
Right.
right?
Or
And have
even like,
systems in place.
I wonder, I forgot what happened at the last doctor's appointment, like
Yeah.
something of
Yes.
like, like just
Ask
little
the
trigger things.
question. Yeah. Don't be like,
Yeah.
you have an appointment tomorrow. Do you remember? So I
Yeah.
think scaffolding that a bit and
Mhm.
this will be real hard, I'll warn you, to allow them to fail. Like let them forget.
Ugh, I know that's the hardest.
So,
But
but
it is,
again, they don't think they
yeah.
need a system because you are their backup plan
Yep.
to see
Yep.
if you can fire yourself from that
And look,
position.
yeah, and I mean, look at it if you look at it in adulthood. I mean, like there was an oops in my office yesterday, and it was a pretty big oops, and it was like, okay, so this can't happen again. What are we going to put in place to fix it?
Yes,
And like we do that as
exactly.
adults, and think
Yep.
of teaching that to our children, 17-year-old, 16-year-old, so that they have that skill is just such a big thing of of also letting them know oopses are okay.
Oh,
We all
so
make
good.
mistakes,
Yes.
right? Like, we all make mistakes and like, "Oops, that was a pretty big one. Okay, how are we gonna fix it, and how are we gonna prevent it from happening again?" And that's
Yes.
guess what?
Love
I can guarantee it's not gonna happen again because my assistants are like, "Oh, no," like
it. Yeah.
"What are we gonna do?" Like, so we have not only a system, but we have a backup system and a backup system,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
there's
yeah,
there's,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
3
Totally.
stages so it doesn't happen because it was a pretty big one.
Yeah.
Thankfully, it worked out okay, but just because the stars aligned that it worked out okay.
Yes,
Um,
completely.
but
Yeah.
that's what
Yes,
our kids
that's
need to
really good.
learn,
And
like,
I think
yeah,
so the other thing that can happen in that dynamic, depending on what the consequences are of the miss or the oops or the whatever, is the parent gets dysregulated and then there's the fight and then there's the shame and then, so I think you just saying like I think the main thing is you just need a system to take care of this. It's not a character flaw, bad you, bad forgetter, bad not trying,
yep,
bad. No, no finger wagging. Just, okay, that didn't work. And we can't have it not work again because that cancellation just cost $250 when you did
right,
it within 24 hours. That did happen to me. And so A, she's paying for part of it, and B, we that can't happen again. Sweet. So how are you gonna? I need you to articulate with me, like, what's your plan for that not happening again, right?
right,
So okay, number seven's on the same wavelength, kinda. You got to get a wake self up system. Meaning, if you are tapping on your child's door right now to wake them up every morning, or if you're going in and you have someone who wakes from the dead and you're physically like, wake up, you will
that's
not be
fine.
there when they go
Yeah,
to college. So let them sleep in, and then they have to write the note to the teacher that says, I missed your class today because I slept in. But you can't be the wake up system for your student all the way till they leave. And you can't be the wake up system. You can't quit in the summer. That doesn't matter. Do it while they're in school and it matters, right?
yeah,
So my
yep,
daughter right now, she is awake from the dead person. And we got a specific, I guess I won't say the specific type, but there are systems out there that will do things like it's real loud, like it's a quacking duck followed by a guy yelling, get out of to bed. And I'm not joking. Maybe with some cuss words mixed in there. Like, no joke. They can set up their own like
I
series of
love
things.
it.
One of them, you have to
Yeah.
scan a barcode on something that you set up in your bathroom or wherever. So she has to go scan her deodorant barcode, which means she has to
Yep.
get out of her bed, go scan the barcode. Right. So there's ways and creativity.
That's,
There's little bracelets that will do a little zzz, zzz, like a little. So there's all
yeah.
kinds of ways, but figure them out now.
It's so
So,
funny you say that because it's just bringing me back to freshman year of college. And I had to put my alarm clock on the other side of the room
hmm
because if it was next to me, I would hit snooze and
hmm
hit snooze until snooze didn't, it
hmm
stopped going off. And so
Yep.
that was my only thing is because I had an 8 o'clock class because as freshmen, you don't get that choice
No,
sometimes,
you
right?
don't. You get the
And
crappy
so
8 o'clock.
but I didn't have all the technology we had back then, now.
hmm
And so back
hmm
then it was like alarm clock over there. That was the only thing that would work is that I would have to get out of bed to go turn it off. And then once I'm out of bed, I was awake enough to function
Yeah.
usually.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. They have some that are alarm clock mats where you have to put your feet on the mat
Ah,
to make it go off. I mean, there's all kinds of creativity, but just
yeah.
get going. Stop
Right.
waking them
Figure
up,
it out.
parents. Like,
Start
parents,
now.
you're fired,
Yep.
and let them have that one really bad instance where, and it, I will just tell, that's almost impossible as a parent to walk by the door,
Ugh,
hear the
I
alarm,
know.
and not do something about it. But you really need
Especially
to.
when right now my sixth grader's alarm wakes everybody up in the house except for her.
Oh, shoot. That's a
And
problem.
I'm like
Yes.
in the bedroom on the other side of the hallway. The alarm's going off. I'm like, are you kidding
Yes.
me?
Yes.
So
Completely.
frustrating.
Yes. That sounds familiar. Yeah, for sure. All right, we're getting there. Number 8.
Yeah.
This one's really important, and this would be something that probably you know a lot about, Francis, but like updating all your disability accommodation
Yeah.
documentation and all of that. So some schools will have within 3 years, your documentation of your neurodivergence of whatever kind that's having you need some accommodations needs to be updated. So some are like, it doesn't matter, just sometime in your life. Some are that loose, and some are within the last year, right?
Yep.
So you've got that's the number one question in my mind to be asking the disability office is how updated do your documentation paperwork? How often does it
And
have to
what
be
do you
updated?
need? Right. What
Right?
do you need? What do you need? Because some schools might be
hmm
like, oh, if you have
Yes.
an IEP or a 504 plan, that's
Yes.
enough. Some are like, no, we need the actual psychological
Oh,
report from the,
100%. Yeah.
you know,
Yes.
and
Yeah,
and
exactly.
and that's one of the things like with the triennial review on the IEPs. Um, yes, we know they're still eligible. We don't need it. But if junior, senior year, you might want to do the updated because you don't know if you're going to need it and you'd rather
hmm
have it done. And most schools won't have an issue with doing an updated psychological and academic just so that they have that knowing that the child's going to college. But
Right.
those are things that are important to know because again, like you don't want to in June, oh, uh-oh, we need a psychological done. Good luck getting into any place to get a psychological done before
No,
August. It's not going to
no,
happen
no. Yeah.
unless you, even if you pay twice like even
Yeah.
paying out of pocket, it's very
hmm
slim chances.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So for those of you who have seniors heading out the door, it would be good to contact the disability offices at the schools they're considering if they haven't already made their
mhm,
decisions. And then B, get on wait lists right this very minute for a
mhm.
psych eval.
Or
Um,
ask the schools to do it. Yep.
or ask the school to do it. Yeah, that's free. Have them do it.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. And what parents don't know is like, yes, triennial review every 3 years, they need to look at the eligibility, but parents have the right to ask for an evaluation as long as it hasn't been done in 12 months. And the interesting
Ooh,
that
didn't
yes,
know
and
that. That's good to know. Yeah.
so
Okay.
yes, very. And the interesting thing is some school systems say if the parents ask, they have to do it. Some school systems say if the parents ask, they don't have to do it. They just have to have a really good reason of why they're not doing it. But
Mm,
I don't
interesting.
it's
Okay.
been
Yeah,
rare that I've
that's the
had a
best free
time.
route to go.
Right, and there's been rare
Yeah.
times that I've actually asked for an evaluation, and the schools were, like, dead set against it. you know?
Mhm.
Um, but
That makes no
most of the
sense to
time
me, but that's yeah,
right, exactly, like, why?
yeah.
I mean, I had one recently
Okay.
that was dead set against it, but they, caved eventually, so
Yeah, well, they kind of
we'll
have
see.
to legally. I mean, if it is what the law says, it is what it says. Okay,
Right,
well, the last piece, the kind of unique pockets of accommodation stuff is, um, you want to, there's some interesting things about college that don't apply to high school settings as far as accommodations. And the two main ones are housing. So if there's sensory concerns or executive function concerns, even there are some, like there's one that I knew that the daughter had a pretty severe eating disorder, right? And so they wanted to create the easiest path to the dining hall possible. So the housing accommodation was that she lived in the dorm with the dining hall in her basement instead of having to walk across walk to it from a different building. So things like that, if you can have, and the thing with that is your provider has to state that you do need that and why, right?
right,
Because things like single rooms in the dorms are pretty hot items. And
mhm,
if you don't have a diagnosed thing that is the reason why you need this single room, they're not going to give it to you. It's very expensive for a college campus to put students in single dorm rooms. So make sure that that's specifically stated, right?
right,
And then the only other one that colleges don't love for you to know about is the priority registration. And so usually as freshmen, you don't have access to that because all the upperclassmen, at least in the fall, because the upperclassmen have already registered before
yep,
you even knew you were going to campus for the most part, right? So they register in the spring for the fall. And then you don't usually register until the summer. So all that's kind of botched your first term, which is kind of a bummer.
right.
But you can get priority registration, which is really, really important if you know that your meds don't kick in until this time, or you can't, you know that you can only focus for 2 hours straight, and then you better have a break, or that third hour is going to be a train wreck. Right. So those kinds of things are things to consider as far as priority registration. And again, that one would absolutely need to be stated by one of your medical providers, or you better be really good as a student at advocating for that and saying exactly why you need it.
I wonder if because I get that on IEPs,
Hmm.
for middle school and high school kids, the priority registration and flexibility with scheduling. So,
Hmm.
for one like, I've had kids that need all the core classes at the beginning of the day, because if not, it's
Yep.
just not gonna happen. And I have
Yep.
others that need it spread out. Like, they
Yep.
can't have, more than 2 core classes. So, like, what does that schedule look like and how is it working? So, if it's accommodation you're getting in high school, I'm wondering
Hmm.
if that's enough. I think sometime and that's
Yeah.
a question to ask the disability office, like,
Yep.
is having it on the IEP enough?
Hmm.
And those
Yeah.
are things
That's
to
a good
consider.
question.
Yeah,
Hmm.
because if it is, then let's get it on the IEP now so that,
Yeah.
we don't have that double issue later.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. I didn't know that was an accommodation in high school, but of course it is. That makes perfect sense. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right, moving on. Call the disability office as soon as you put the money down. Like if you know you're going to that place,
Yeah.
right away, it's your first phone call. And the top three questions, among so many questions, is a little bit hard for me to limit this. But when can I meet with a staff member to set up my accommodations? Like make
Mhm.
that appointment. Questions about required documentation, although most of the time they're on the website. So be sure you read the full disability website first. They're pretty good. You would think they'd be awesomely good based on the office
Right.
that they are representing. But it's just a web designer doing this, and then a
Mhm.
super overworked, busy disability director saying, "Yeah, that looks good." Right. So, anyway, read the website. From that website, gather your questions. But do you have any workshops or groups to help with executive function or skills or an adjustment to college? Right. So, do they have any kind of cool little classes for freshmen, or maybe things they offer in the summer before you go
Mhm.
that are unique pockets of support? Right. So,
Yeah.
those are the three questions I would head in there asking. Yeah.
Awesome.
All right.
Is it
24% is the number of students who do disclose that they have a learning difference in college. I don't know how they got that number. It's an official number from an official place that I can't remember right off the top of my head, but that's not very many students, right?
Yeah.
So, of the students that have disabilities entering the college setting, only 24% disclose.
Wow.
That's not very many,
Mm-mm.
right? And you cannot get help for something you don't disclose.
Right.
Right. And it does not harm you to do so. So
Yeah.
I just like to kind of put that stuff out front as far as getting access to the disability office and letting the college know that this is, in fact, something that could impact your college setting. A lot of students are like, this is my first start. I don't have to be who I was in high school. I'm
Right.
gonna, it's not gonna be boring anymore. I get to choose my classes. So, like all that stuff where I disengaged and didn't pay attention, it was because my high school teachers were terrible or I had to take these classes. But now I'm in charge. So, I
Yep.
don't think this whole ADHD thing, for instance, is going to be a factor. Right. And that's just unfortunately the grief of coming to the conclusion that ADHD follows you through your life is a big one. And I'd like to have students face that without massive consequences to their college
Right.
experience. So, you can get accommodations and then never use them. They don't
Right.
care if you use them or not, but it's really good idea to have them in place in case you do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, um, okie dokie. Just wanted to put that little side note in there. Okay, number 10, final one.
And I was gonna
Learn.
say,
I'm
one
sorry.
of the things no, I was just gonna say one of the things to start doing now, if you haven't, is normalizing the
Mm,
disability.
mhm,
It's the I hate the word disability,
mhm,
different abilities, like
mhm,
all the terminologies is better than it was, but it's still not
mhm.
good.
Yep.
But like that's the thing is like normalize that like this is just who you are and how your brain works. It's normal. It's okay. You need
Yeah.
accommodations to even the playing field. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
And so
Yes.
normalizing it takes that fear away from, well, what if people find out? What
Yeah.
if people find out?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's who you
Yeah.
are.
Yeah. And a lot of campuses, thankfully, are changing the names of their disability office to the
Mhm.
Learning Center, something
Ah,
very neutral. Anybody can go to the Learning Center.
right,
Right. So I appreciate when they do that. But unfortunately, there's still a lot of Disability Access Center and those kind of names out there. So,
right.
okay. Number 10, learn the resources on campus before you get there. So the
Okay.
counseling center, the tutoring center, and the disability office, you should know how to get there. You should know where the front desk is. You should know, I mean, you can do this kind of thing on your college tour, right? Most of the
Right,
time they'll take you to these spots. Um, but they may not get mega in detail about where they are. And most of the time they won't take you to the disability office. It's not a part of
right,
most tours. So where are they? How do they work? And who is your stupid question person going to be? Like, who is the easiest ask? Meaning, is it your RA? Is it your
mhm,
advisor? Could it be an academic coach, an upperclassman? Like, who on campus can be that person that's like your inner scoop kind of
right.
or stupid question person? Right. So
Who's your safe
figure,
person, as we call it in safe person,
yeah,
as we
who's
call
your
it on the
safe
IEPs,
person?
like, who's your safe
Exactly.
person that
Exactly.
when things are falling apart, who do you go to? Who do you ask? What do you do?
Exactly. Yep,
Yep,
you got to find your safe person on campus. It's going to
right,
feel like a big place. Even if it's not a giant university, it's still likely bigger than your high school setting. And
right,
so to kind of get past the intimidation factor of that big leap and figure out, just find one helpful person to be your point person to ask those things. So those are my 10.
love
And
it.
yeah, I think if you can have those under control, you're going to have one heck of a college experience, right? It's going to be all the fun that you hope it'll
Yeah.
be and the learning experience that you're hoping for. Um, I do have a few, I don't know what our timing's like. Where are we at? How long do we chat with each
So
other
we're
here?
at 45 minutes so far, which
Mhm.
is good. So we have a little bit of more time,
Okay.
but we should be wrapping up soon.
Okay. I have a few pointers for parents specifically. So
Perfect.
Okay,
Love to
we'll
hear
wrap
them.
up with that. Okay.
Okay.
So pointer number one is this is a teaching, like everybody who's been a teacher, goes to school to be a teacher has likely heard this. And the framework is I do, we do, you do. And so teaching is I do it, we do it together, and then you do it on your own, right? So how can you as a parent start scaffolding every single thing you do for that kid? Um, with this, right? And it will feel scary to do so. So anything that you're still doing entirely for them, can you move into a we do space? Okay, this is what I do to do this. You need to know this because next year I'm not going to be doing it, right?
Right.
So either talking through it or doing things like doing role play kind of conversations or putting the phone on speakerphone when you make the appointment with the doctor and your
Mhm.
kid's talking, they're talking, you're here. If absolutely necessary, you can say
Right.
something, right? Or you have a
Mhm.
little pad of paper, you're scribbling down what they can say, right? As
Mhm.
they talk. But how can you make we do experiences happen right now so that when they go to college, it's all you do?
Yep.
Right? So, and I will say this, man, we do is super messy. I have a senior in high school, and anytime I try and scaffold one of these experiences, I'm going to show you how to do this thing so you know how to do it on your own. She is feisty. She does not want me to tell her or show her. She knows how, but she doesn't know how. She's never done it before. So
And
I
she
don't
isn't doing it now, right?
know. So, depending on the feisty level of your lovely human, that won't be a pleasant place to be for very long. And it takes a lot of creativity to hand off autonomy to them while they take it in a way that they don't think you're just like on their case and telling them how to do it.
Right.
Right. So, how can you do it together without it getting nasty? And I would just
Yep.
say, good luck with that. But you got to try.
Right.
Okay. Number two, you try and become more of a consultant versus a manager in their life.
Mm.
Right. And I will give this to you, Francis. I don't know if there's a way to create a link to anything after, but I'll share it with you after and you can do with it what you'd like. But it's a T chart of a manager versus a consultant as a parent.
I love it.
And on the left side, it says things like the manager has an illusion of power or control. The consultant has real influence,
Yeah.
right? Big difference. The parent who's the manager says, it's up to me, it's my call. The
Mhm.
parent that's a consultant says, it's up to you, it's your call. This is my favorite phrase later. It's up to you, it's your call.
Mhm.
And they feel it. You can watch the responsibility
Right.
like land on their shoulders. It's almost like they're like, oh, it is my call,
Right. And
right?
then it's
So
like, "Wait a minute, I don't wanna do this now."
yeah,
Like, "Wait,
too
Mom, come
bad.
back."
Too bad. Yeah.
Up
And,
for it.
there's a whole list of these, but the other ones I'm here with answers as a
Mhm.
manager versus I'm available for questions as a
Right. And we
consultant.
will have the links. We'll add the links. I think Kevin does it
Okay.
tomorrow, but we'll make sure the link's there.
Okay. So we'll throw that in there as to not go through the
Mhm.
whole thing. The only thing I would say is what's your favorite punctuation mark? I don't know if you've ever done this icebreaker question. If you had a punctuation mark that was representative of your personality, what would it be? And so, but you as a parent of a high school senior need to be a question mark,
Yeah.
not a period, and certainly not an exclamation point anymore, anymore,
Yeah.
right? Like get more into asking questions, being curious, having them take the lead. Even if you know best, and they are for sure going to screw this up, still ask
Gotta
them
let him do
questions,
it. Yep.
right? Yeah, still ask them
Yep.
questions. And the third one is just something I have already shared, but it's your call. Like,
Yeah.
can you stick that on a sticky note on every mirror you look at in your house? Can you put it in? Could you have a stone in your pocket? I don't know,
Right.
but like, say it a lot. It's your
Yeah.
call. It's your call. Up to you, right?
Yep.
So, I think that is just one of the most lovely phrases of autonomy provision that you can give your senior before they head out the door. So,
Love it. Awesome.
that is it. Yeah,
I love it, Cindy. Thank you
yeah,
so much for coming on the
yeah,
show. I mean, like, I feel
yeah,
like there's just so much information packed in this one little episode, but it's fabulous. Pointers and then the top tips for parents. I love it. Thank you so
yeah.
much for coming on and sharing all of your words of wisdom.
Yeah, for sure. And the only other last piece I would say is like Find folks who can support your students when you are backing off. If it's
Yes.
a friend that's like their aunt, their older cousin, right? And or a coach, right? But some or a tutor or a whatever, but something where you can relinquish and they can feel themselves take that baby step, but it's a stepping stone towards
Right.
independence, right? So if you know it is going to just hit the fan when you back off, that's fine. Get an intermediate in there to
Right.
help take the load off you so that when they're trying to be autonomous and take their scissors to cut the cords from you or their chainsaw, because that's usually what they'll pull out.
Right.
Um, it can be a violent, I am going to be
Right.
independent from you moment. So to create a harmony in the family and a relationship that lasts through the years, figure out how to hand it off somehow.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah.
Love it.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're so welcome. Thanks for having me. It was really fun.
Of course. And thank you all for joining us on this episode of Stress Free IEP. We hope today's conversation gave you new tools, insights, or just a little more peace of mind as you support your neurodivergent child. Next week, we will have episode 136, Why Schools Need Regulation, Not More Curriculum, with Emily Daniels. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you found this episode helpful, please share it with someone in your village. You can always learn more and connect with me at schefterlaw.com or follow along on social media. Until next time, remember, you do not have to do it all alone.